Good evening. Welcome to the Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting, December 3rd, 2013. We'll begin with the salute to the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Pullen, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Galloway?
Here.
Mr. Snipes?
Here.
Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dent?
Here.
Mr. Rocca?
Here.
Okay, we have a very short and simple agenda this evening. Starting with public comment, Mr. Gray is getting the list for us. Thank you, Mr. Gray. Okay, first name on the list is Bill Wilcox. Police chief.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, tonight, I came here this evening tonight because I had the opportunity, and I didn't want to miss a chance of missing the next meeting. My reason for being here tonight is threefold. First of all, on behalf of the police department, I want to thank the entire board for everything you've done for us this year. It's been a great year, and I thank you, and thank you for working with us this year. Secondly, Mr. Snipes, the reason I didn't want to miss this meeting, I wanted to thank you personally for all the things you've did over the years, and this township is better for having you. I truly, truly mean that. Thank you, and you've been a real asset to this township, the police department, and everybody. And I also speak as a resident of Falls Township. And lastly, I just wanted to thank the board. The last year for my accident from August of 2012 through August of 2013 was pretty tumultuous for me, with headaches, so on and so forth. And everybody on the entire board worked with me. I just wanted to thank you, and my family thanks you, and thank you for everything. And that's the only reason I'm here tonight. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. Roland Kenny, Falls Township.
Good evening, Falls Township. Oh, Roland Kenny, Falls Township. This Thursday and Friday, I want everybody to remember, over at Pennsbury Manor, it's Holly Night. It's the best time of the year. If you ever want to go see Penn Manor, that's the nights to go. We light everything up by candles, and it's breathtaking, the scenery and everything. When you walk down the paths and everything, make sure you go see the graveyard. That's what I keep in good shape. Last meeting, had a lot of bickering and everything. You know, and everybody said, "Wait, when they talk about you, why don't you say?" The board wants to say that, let them say it. It's a free country. And as far as guns are concerned, I don't have a gun. I have a couple bullets in me. I don't need no gun. But those who, I believe in the Second Amendment, they want guns, let them have them. Of course, like there's an old saying, the old gangsters, once you pass all these laws you can pass, because they don't care about them. They're always going to keep their guns. So I want you to get rid of that stuff. And thirdly, have a nice night, have a nice holiday. We had some holiday. Hope everybody had a nice Thanksgiving. Didn't get too heavy like me. Enjoy your life. God bless you. Good night.
All right, thank you. Guido Mariani.
Did Bob announce the executive session? No.
Good evening.
Prior to adopting the 2014 budget, we'll have a discussion later, I know, I want to offer some advice to this board. You've heard it before, but at my age, I don't know how many more times I'm going to be able to give you this advice. Host fees in this township have become a major source of funding in our budget. Normal operating expenses should be supported, I think, solely by taxes, because that acts as a restraint on reckless spending. I also advised this board before, and I'm going to do it again for this budget, to expand our tax base. Now, this is something that's going to have to be done in the future when host fees cease. I believe it's your responsibility to begin that process now, because this is not something you're going to be able to do in a year or two. Now, there are a variety of revenue sources, and as a matter of fact, I think probably a number of our residents are already paying a tax to other townships that probably could and should be collected here. Now, to make that transfer to an expanded tax base, because a lot of people don't like that, and a lot of members of boards don't want that on their shift. To make that more acceptable, I'm saying all the future waste management fees should be accumulated into a fund, and that fund should be invested in insured and government securities. The fund then would never be available for expenditures for normal operations or to cover deficiencies in the budget process that we might have. The purpose of the fund would be to provide perpetual income for all of our residents in Falls Township by an amount that would be computed by a formula based upon estimated returns, so that no one gets this confused. I'm not saying distribute the funds or to distribute the funds that we get from waste management. I'm saying we distribute the income that we get from the fund. That's a whole different process. It's not like something another township's doing. Now, I really believe we're obligating this township to a lot of unnecessary projects that I believe are beyond the role of government, beyond what government should be doing. And it goes, and the subsequent cost that we acquired to maintain these projects. Now, every one of these projects becomes a part of your present budget, and then it becomes part of your future budget when you have to maintain it. Each one of them is going to represent a future tax increase when the initial funding sources for these projects that we're building comes due. One of the things I'd like to see us do is establish a version of the Federal Grace Commission that Ronald Reagan did in 1982. You get a panel of business and private volunteers, and they would be tasked with analyzing our budget and pinpoint waste and identify whatever opportunities we have for savings. All of these commitments that we're making are being done when things are flush. And right now, we're flush, we're fortunate. I understand that. Now, my question is, where in the future will the money come to keep all these projects that we're building? And I've never got an answer to that. And I honestly, truthfully believe at the rate that we're spending, I think our current prosperity might turn out to be our undoing. I don't think that anybody on this board deliberately acts in that fashion. As a matter of fact, I know you don't. But I'm telling you, think about some of the things I said and see if you could apply them to this budget and future budgets. And I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Tim Pullen?
Hi, my name's Tim Pullen, Boy Scout Troop 53 out of Levittown, PA. In the beginning of November, I took part in doing my Eagle Scout project at the Pinewood Pool. My project was installing a 25-foot flagpole at the entrance to the pool driveway. And I also created a small circular garden at the base of it. And me being here to thank the township for letting me do my project at the pool, and also to thank the Public Works Department on digging the hole for the concrete base to the flagpole. And also for me to give to the board now tonight is a check of my fundraising efforts to go towards some of the costs of the flagpole.
If you're wondering, of course, young Mr. Pullen here is related to Mrs. Pullen. And so we thank her, of course, for her role in raising a wonderful young man, and thank him. You know, we would often get, I think I was actually there at the grand opening of the pool many years ago, and it was one of the things someone observed, said, "No, there's a flagpole." And I said, so we'll just wait. Somewhere along the line, there's going to be an Eagle Scout who needs a project. And this is perfect. Yeah, and it worked out perfectly, and thank him for all his efforts. There's a lot of fundraising efforts that goes into this, a lot of coordinating, in addition to just the labor that goes into this. We've had a lot of Eagle Scouts do a lot of projects in the township, and it's a wonderful program, you know, through the Boy Scouts. We thank him for all his efforts, and we'll obviously make sure Mr. Arneo and his crew gets made aware of the fact that Tim was here to thank them too. So thank you very much, Mr. Pullen. We appreciate it. Okay. Tony, is it Batiste? Yes. Oh.
Good evening. I'm not sure if this is the forum, but I understand the next session is going to be about the used car lot. Is this comment for that now?
The next agenda item is a waiver of land development for the Faulkner. Right, yes. If we will take we take comments on issues, not just in public comment, but we also take comment on issues. But since you're there, if you want to just speak, we'll let you go.
I'm not really sure if it's actually zoned for that. If it is, then I would like the board to consider the fact that there is a safety factor because cars come flying up Business Route 1 going towards Trenton, and there's a curve there. Mm-hmm. And there's people trying to come out of that apartment complex, and then there's another building, and then it's the building that's in question. And there used to be cops that sat up at the bar a lot, and that slowed down traffic, but they're not always there anymore. And the cars just come flying around that corner, and it's really a bad spot for people to be trying to get in and get out of that place. And then you have the people who are trying to get in and out of the gas station, and that's a turning lane. Right. There's been a lot of accidents at that intersection. So I would like you to consider the safety factor. Also, in the past, the people who have been there previously have used a lot of our side streets as testing roads for the vehicles. And it's not real cool to have 25-mile-an-hour zoning limits, and here comes these cars flying down the road because they're not testing how slow the car is going to go. And also, they seem to like to have speakers so that they are announcing, please come to the office, please go out to the car lot, whatever you're going to move the car. And there are people who actually sleep during the day because they work at night, and it's not real cool. And also the entrance in the back does come out if they use it into Edgemont Road, which is a high traffic area for people going back and forth to the park. And that's youngsters who are traveling that road. As far as the budget goes, which has nothing to do with that first issue, I would really appreciate it if the board would look at some of these expenditures and look at ways to maybe reduce them, because our economy is not booming right now and people are losing their jobs. I also work as a realtor, and I'm selling houses on short sales because people can't afford them anymore. So we have to look at how we can be fiscally responsible for our residents too. So I'd like you to take a look at that, and also to reconsider any major purchases or building plans. I think what we have in the township is really sufficient for what we need. And if you start looking at how much it's costing to police in terms of security, not just for the policemen, but just security and stuff for some of our parks right now, it's getting kind of high, and those expenditures are getting high, and at some point, Waste Management isn't going to be funding us. They're going to be running out of space, and unless we can limit who brings their trash in here from out of the township, and I don't think we can,
No, we can't.
then at some point, they're going to fill up, and there's only so much land down there, and it's only so much of a safety factor with that getting into the water supplies. So I think we really need to start looking at how we can cut from the budget and not increase. And the other question I did have is, what is longevity salary?
Longevity salary is for, I think it only applies to police officers, correct? Or is there, no, it's also public
All
works.
township employees.
Yeah, it's all township employees. It's basically for, I'm not sure of the increments, but at certain intervals of employment, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, there's essentially a bonus for them
Okay.
for their longevity.
Yeah, I just couldn't figure out what that
Yeah.
was. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Sure. Okay, those are all the names on the list. Anyone else wish to speak? I see them with hands. Okay. Item number 2 is a waiver.
Chairman, if I could,
Oh, I'm
first
sorry.
of
I
all,
apologize.
we should have reported on the executive session.
You're right. I forgot. I
At the
apologize.
conclusion of our meeting on November 19th, we held an executive session to discuss litigation and personnel. And if the board would indulge me for a few moments, if we could move item number 5, executive session, up before item number 2, there is a matter that I would like to discuss with the board before we proceed with item number 2.
All right, so you're requesting executive session
Yes.
now? Okay, is that okay with board members?
Fine.
All right, we'll take a short executive session. We'll call our meeting back to order, 7:29. Mr. Clark, can you give us a summary for the executive session, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the board just held a brief executive session to discuss a matter of potential litigation.
All right, thank you. Item 2, I said before, is a waiver of land development for Faulkner. This is for people, this is the old Saturn car dealership, 390 Lincoln Highway. Mr. Gray, you want to?
Yes, as mentioned, this is Faulkner waiver of land development, 390 Lincoln Highway, tax map parcel 13-008-051.
Good evening, Gavin Lebowski on behalf of Faulkner. The applicant is actually designated as JJLH Associates Limited, which is the owner of the property. Just by way of background, this site is a fully developed site, as you know, operated as the Faulkner Saturn dealership and has a collision center in the back. There were 2 separate applications some years apart. I think the first one was in the late 1990s. It resulted in a land development application to approve the site and a subdivision which resulted in the dedication of some property to the park, the Township Park, which is directly behind the site. Later, then, there was a land development application for the collision center that exists now. The applicant is in the process of completing a condominium plan and declaration, which would overlay on the property and create essentially 2 units, each building. As a part of that process, they've been involved with a land development application with the township. They've requested a waiver from that process because the act of changing ownership or the designation of ownership on a property in Faulkner's position or in the applicant's position does not trigger land development. That plan has been reviewed. An engineer letter issued November 19, 2013. The matter was heard by the Planning Commission, I believe, a week ago. I did not attend that meeting, but I understand that there was a recommendation of denial at that time. I've had a chance to review the resolution that is issued and the conditions. I believe that the applicant is in a position to agree to the conditions stated in the resolution. There are 2 items that we'd like to address, however, and they relate to the street tree requirement and the sidewalk requirement that are listed in the resolution and also mentioned in the engineer review letter. Because the site is fully developed, it's been through at least 2 land development applications previously. It's our understanding that those provisions were waived previously, and the applicant would request a waiver of those requirements under the circumstances. Trees typically don't go well with car dealerships because of all of the leaves and sap and other things, so it's routine not to have those at dealership sites. The applicant is willing to have those trees planted somewhere else in the municipality if that's acceptable, or provide a fee in lieu that the township could then use to plant trees elsewhere. But they would like a waiver from those two provisions. Finally, the applicant is prepared to prepare a record plan, which is somewhat of a modified land development plan, modified in the sense that there's a series of waivers that you would see, or a series of things waived on the plan that you would normally see on a full-blown land development application, and have that plan filed separate from the condominium plan. For legal reasons, to have all the zoning charts and all those items on a condominium plan could cause some problems with that plan, and certainly a note could be placed on each plan referencing back to the other plan for clarity purposes at the Recorder of Deeds. So with that, I think that we can reach a resolution based upon the engineer review letter and what the applicant is prepared to agree to.
Okay, all right, thank you. We'll go to comments or questions from board members. And obviously, board members could also direct comments or questions to the solicitor or the engineer with regards to Mr. Lebowski's presentation. Mr. Galloway?
Not right now.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The issue of the shade trees, I understand the argument that you make, and I don't know how other board members feel, but I'd feel comfortable having the trees planted elsewhere. I'm usually an advocate for trees in the township, and I know the Shade Tree Commission would like the opportunity to probably weigh in on where those trees should go. So I feel comfortable with that. I'll listen to what other board members have to say.
Okay. Mr. Dents?
Yes. Mr. Lebowski, you were at the Planning Commission last week?
Not for this applicant,
But
no,
you were
sir.
present.
I was present for a different applicant. I left before this reached the...
All right. Well, your partner who came there representing Faulkner was completely out of line the way he treated our Planning Commission. He was disrespectful. He was obnoxious. And that's not something we take lightly. I know that they denied it, which is something not common for Brian Binney, the chairman, to do. It was cut and dry. It should have been a simple procedure. We came here tonight, we were prepared. We were prepared to send you back to planning and start the process over again. But we understand the time constraints that Faulkner is under, so we're going to move forward with this tonight. And we did speak to Brian Binney about this, so he's clear on what we're doing here. He had a few things he wanted us to mention. So we're doing this with our Planning Commission's blessing, so to speak, but it's not something we take lightly.
I understand that. And
you can relay that message that is definitely not appreciated in Falls Township.
I understand that, and I agree with it. There's no place for that in any meeting,
Right.
and I appreciate you not taking that out on the applicant.
All right, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rocco?
Yeah, I didn't understand the request to submit two different plans and refer. I'm not following that.
There's a land development plan, which I believe Mr. Lebowski is indicating that his clients will submit. That will be the record plan. That will be recorded. That will include all of the things that are normally included on a land development plan, the ones that we normally see and that we sign off on when plans are approved. There is a second plan that is the condominium plan, which lays out the different forms of the different form of ownership of the condominium as the way the parcels are owned. And Mr. Lebowski is asking that all of the normal things that you put on a land development plan don't go on to the condominium plan, and we believe that that is appropriate.
Yeah, what is the reason for that?
The condominium plan is based upon the declaration that will be filed in the Recorder of Deeds. So that will identify each unit, what the common elements are, what the limited common elements are, and with the extraneous information that you would find on a land development plan that you wouldn't find in a condominium plan, it could run afoul of the Uniform Condominium Act, and it could create issues down the line for the owner. It could create title issues, and it's much cleaner and easier to keep the two separate. And I mentioned referencing the two as a suggestion so that if somebody looks up one plan, they can immediately see a note on the plan that references the other plan that's recorded,
Okay.
just to make things easier.
Right.
And as long as there is that note on each plan, any prospective buyer or anyone who has any interest in the property will know from reading it that there is another plan that they should go and look for. So no one's going to be surprised if they're looking at one of the documents that there isn't another document out there.
Okay. As far as the street trees, I'm fine with whatever you guys want to do. We just had a discussion last meeting about sidewalks. I think you should put them in, and that would be my recommendation. I don't know how the rest of the board feels. The gas station, if you're looking at your property, to the left has it. The apartment complex on the right has that as well. So,
Would the board consider a fee in lieu of sidewalks? I put that out there as an offer.
I think considering, as Mr. Rocco said, the meeting we had at our last, or the discussion we had at our last meeting regarding a property not too far from where this one is, and a lengthy discussion on sidewalks. You know, I travel that road a decent amount, and I see people walking, whether they're walking toward the supermarket area, or they're walking back, or they're walking to go onto North Olds. You know, I quite frankly would like to see the sidewalks there. I understand it was waived at some point in the past, but obviously that was a past board. That's not this board.
I understand.
So that's my feeling. You know.
yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Understood.
Anything else?
No, that's all I had. Thank you.
One of the issues Mr. Dents mentioned, Mr. Binney from our Planning Commission had a couple of points he wanted to make sure were addressed, and so I'll turn to our solicitor. One of the issues was concern that with this condominium setup, you're essentially having two different operations in the two separate buildings, and a concern that that could sort of be subdivided in the future, and the township would have no way of sort of controlling what happened with these buildings in terms of who's using them or how it's being used. Are we covered in that respect?
Yeah, I believe we are covered. There are two separate issues. One is with the form of ownership, which is going to be covered by the condominium documents, which the township has very little say in what happens. But the use of the property, whether it's there's going to be a new use or whether or not they want to divide one of the properties, all of that would have to come back before one of the township boards, either you or the zoning hearing board. So while Mr. Binney and the Planning Commission expressed some concern about that, and it is a valid concern, we are protected in the event that anything along those lines, change of ownership, change in what property is being used for what, trying to sell certain of the properties off, we'll be able to have some say in what happens in that regard.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I did want to address the comments that were raised by Mrs. Batiste in public comment regarding some of the concerns about this. One of the concerns about traffic, it is a state highway. The driveway that is there, or the two driveways, I should say, that are, you know, one on Lincoln Highway, one on North Olds. You know, the Lincoln Highway is a state highway, and obviously that road, it's not something we have any control over. That driveway is going to be there, whether or not this becomes a used car lot or it becomes what else it becomes. The driveway is there. That's not, you know, there's nothing we can do to sort of move that or change it. Our traffic engineers did look at the plan, you know, and there wasn't any kind of recommendations on their part, simply because the use isn't really changing. We want it going from what was a new car lot to a used car lot. So in terms of generating more traffic, that's not really necessarily going to be an issue. With respect to the loudspeakers, and I can kind of understand that issue. I don't know if the owner has any kind of intention on using loudspeakers to...
Faulkner does not use loudspeakers.
Okay.
Now, if they transfer the property, they don't know, obviously, what other parties might do.
Right.
But Faulkner has made it a policy of theirs not to use loudspeakers at their facilities.
Okay.
For that very
Are you
reason.
done?
Sure. Yeah.
We're not approving a car lot tonight. We're just subdividing this
Right,
property.
sorry. Right.
Oh, you're not even subdividing it.
Right, we're
You're
subdividing this
Come up
property into a
condominium, right.
body shop that Faulkner owns in the back and separating it from what is a car lot.
Right.
And there is a used car business proposing to move in there.
That's right.
But that hasn't been finalized yet either.
That's correct.
But we're not doing anything to approve a car lot tonight.
Right.
And the used car business is in front of zoning next Tuesday
Yes.
for a special exception.
Right. So I apologize for the confusion.
That's all right.
All right, so that's...
If I could go back to the
Sure.
sidewalks, and I hate to
Go ahead.
interrupt you. It's Faulkner's preference to escrow the money for the construction of the sidewalks and build those going forward rather than build them before the final approval. Is that acceptable?
It's fine with me. Is that okay with board members?
Good with me.
Say that again?
They need to escrow the money for the sidewalks rather, they won't have time to build them before they transfer the property.
That's fine. Fine with me, yeah.
Okay. Mr.
That will
Sullivan, you okay with that?
necessitate a very quick agreement between the applicant and ourselves. We can turn that around in the next day or so.
Right.
Okay. Okay, any other board comment or questions?
No.
Okay, is there public comment? See no hands. All right, so this would be waiver of land development. for JJLH Associates Limited, 390 Lincoln Highway, 13008-051. Is there a motion to approve the waiver of land development?
So moved.
Sorry. Go ahead, Mr.
That'll be Resolution 13-36.
1336, thank you. All right.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to add anything about the street trees, any particular language?
I guess we'll say granting of a waiver for future plantings or planting somewhere else in the township, for street trees on the property.
And I believe the understanding is that our engineer will do a calculation of how many trees would have had to have been planted, and then that's what we'll do, either a fee in lieu of or a payment of those trees to be planted somewhere else in the township.
Okay. All right.
That sounds right.
Okay. Okay, so resolution 13-36.
I'll make the motion to approve Resolution -13-36.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I have to amend this resolution, so I'll email this over to you tomorrow. Maybe to this one.
Okay, item 3 is discussion on proposed 2014 budget. At the last meeting, we had a budget presentation by Mrs. Rukoff, our finance director. Board members have had input. Obviously, Mr. Gray, as I stated at the last meeting, has gone through that process with department heads, taking a look at all of their submissions for things they wanted. I know the comment was brought up earlier in public comment about cutting back on expenditures, and Mr. Gray does a lot of cutting before it even gets to us. There's a great deal of hacking away at different things done in Mr. Gray's office and Mrs. Rukoff as well to pare the budget down from what the department heads want for their respective departments and then what actually gets approved. So I don't know if board members had any comments or thoughts at this time, or we can open up to public comment and see if there's public comment.
I'm good, thank you.
Board comment at the time? No? Okay, is there any public comment? See one hand, is there a motion to open public comment?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Mariani?
See that the income from host fees estimated to be $11 million this year, all of which is going to go to support the general fund. Again, we've used the entire revenue source. I highlighted just a handful of accounts. The Kaiser Family Foundation reported family health care reached $16,351, which was an increase of 4% for the year. And the workers paid $4,565 toward that, which is a 28% contribution. In Pennsylvania, single premiums per enrolled employee is $4,323, with an employee contribution of $1,062, which is a 25% contribution. In our budget, I noticed health insurance on page 4, which was $90,360 and 13 and 95,633 this year, was a 5.84% increase. But the point is, that comes at $31,878 per employee. Private sector is $16,351. If you go to page 7, page 9, I'm not going to read all these numbers off. They're there. You know where they find them. 7.2% increase. Go to page 9, 6.1% increase. In every department where we take a look at health, we were well above the average. Now, I don't know what our employee contribution is to health cost, if anything at all. But I point that out because you are aware that the Affordable Care Act calls for an excise tax of 40% when individual plans over $10,200 and family plans over $27,500, and that's going to be followed quickly by an 80% excise tax. So we got to start taking a look at our health plans, and especially, I think we've got, a couple more years left on our contract. The capital reserve funds was on page 24, showed a decrease of $4,705,000. Go to page 25, host community fees, that's the total for revenues, showed a decrease of $9,651,000. I guess that's why we don't have as many projects to do this year, because the revenue wasn't there. The page 25, there was a road program and engineer. And in 2013, the construction and engineer budget was $6.2 million. When I looked at the year-end projection this year, we're showing $1,618,000, and we're budgeting for the next year $4,501,491. So my question is, does that indicate that we didn't do all of the 12 township roads, or we didn't complete the Yardley Farms and Hedgewood Wood sections, and so we're carrying that money over to do it this year? Is that what we're saying?
The project, the 2013 road program got started very late, and so what you're saying, you're accurate, and it's
Okay.
basically continuing into next year.
Yeah, because I looked at that and I said, geez, it's probably total 6.2. Now, page 26, we start with the projects, and we're going to have a discussion on all these projects, I'm sure, as they come up before they're approved. But quickly, New Falls sidewalk is budgeted at $238,000, not the $175,000. I think, obviously, it's unnecessary, and I think it should be removed. The goose control thing at $12,000, year after year after year, same thing, the geese are still there, they're fatter than ever. Get rid of that program, let's remove the geese, let's replace the program.
Did he call me a goose?
The fishing pier isn't budgeted, I didn't see that in there, and it shouldn't be added, because I think that's absolutely unnecessary. The Township Building Expansion Program, $900,000. From one of the very few people, I think 3 people that went through this building. You went with me,
Yes, I did.
Rocco.
Yes.
I was in favor of it. We got to do something with the building. I absolutely agree with that. But the projected cost of $15 million, I think, is well beyond anything we need. And reviewing our plans that we discussed here, I think we could probably get what we need and maybe a little more for about $9 million rather than $15 million. Byline, $507,000. Please don't pursue that. We don't need a multi-million-dollar plan that I honestly believe will eventually bankrupt this township. I really believe that. That project makes about as much sense as opening a chain of Burger Kings in Calcutta, and you're going to have the same result. It's going to go right down the drain.
He's away with words.
Now, real fast, I'll be done in about 30 seconds. Township statistics. Please pay attention to this. The cost of living in Falls is 19.6% higher than the U.S. These are important statistics. There's not that many of them. The population growth there is minus 0.53, so we're down to about 34,000. Unemployment is 6.6%. Job growth in Falls is minus 0.79%. I think that's going to reverse. I really do. I think we're going to be a lot better off there. But the median per capita income, $27,000, $500. And you go to household income, it's about $50,000 in Falls Township. So my point is, our budgets have to be predicated on the realistic future revenue that's going to have to come from these people. These statistics represent these people and their revenue source. You have to do that without expecting host fees. If you note these statistics, I don't think our budgets, as they're proposed, reflect that. So, just think about what I said both times, and you might want to consider maybe making some changes in our budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just a couple things, Mr. Mariani. Thank you first off for the comments. In terms of the income issue, one of my concerns in terms of that number being low per capita and also the median family income, I'm wondering if that's impacted by the fact that we have an above-average senior citizen population here in Falls, which obviously, of course, the people that aren't. I'm wondering. I don't know if it is or not, but it's a possibility that it would be lower. We do have a senior citizen population that's higher than surrounding communities, and so that's one of my thoughts as to why it's a little lower.
It's
why
about
not
on
lower.
average. You know, the U.S. average is about 50,000.
So,
It is.
okay.
Okay, because when I looked at this, I don't only take one source. I went
No, I
to
know.
Wikipedia, I went to Sperling,
Right.
I went to all of them. And Sperling might have it a little higher than 50,000, but that's pretty good average. It really is. And I don't think we have that many more senior citizens like myself in Falls than we do any place
Very
else.
few people like you, Mr. Mariani. It's just you're unique.
I had Dr. Riley when I had cancer. He says to me, "You are a legend." And I says, "I know it." So, okay,
All right,
thank you.
thank you.
Think about some of the things I said.
Will, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Kinney.
I don't know if this has anything to do with the budget. One of you's been here 12 years, another, I think you've been here probably 10 years. How much money have we put in the bank since then? Have we saved? Just
Off the top of my
an
head,
idea?
Mr. Gray will know better than, but I think it's probably,
At this time, we have $30 million in change in our long-term restricted account.
and I think when I came on the board, it was probably in the neighborhood of 15, 12 to 15, something like that.
and I don't remember how much it was when I came on. I don't
Have
remember
you-
how much. I mean, it's definitely, it was more, obviously. but
Substantially
it's-
increased.
Yeah.
Another question. Since the host fees will stop once our good neighbors leave us, is there any possible way of using that island to put trash on?
In Biles Island?
Yeah, you know.
Well, I'm sure if there's a way to do it, our good neighbors will figure that out. Because I know they're not necessarily anxious to leave here. This is one of the biggest operations they have in the entire planet, I think. So I know they're not, you know, it's not like they're waiting for the door to hit them in the rear end as they walk away. They're making a lot of money being here, and obviously, as you said it right, they are a good neighbor, so.
They're our best neighbors.
so.
Okay, that's all I wanted to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment on the budget? No? Okay. Motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I know Mr. Rocco has a family commitment, so thank you for being here. Give our best to your family. It just, one of the issues, I know Mr. Mariani brought up expanding the tax base, and one of the things that I looked at, this was several years ago, I remember asking Mr. Clark to look into this, was trying to find ways to generate revenue that didn't necessarily impact the residents. For example, we have a port in this township. The Port of Bucks County is it's formally called, former whatever Novolog or et cetera, Kinder Morgan now. But I asked Mr. Clark to look into whether or not we could charge a docking fee. Any ship that comes in, obviously we could argue the trucks and trains that are leaving that facility are using our roads and requiring our attention from our police departments and fire departments, et cetera, and we were not permitted to do that. The state does not allow us to do that. We have a lot of hotels in this township. The Sheraton obviously being the biggest one, and we actually had several others on Cabot Boulevard getting built back when I raised this issue about whether or not we could charge a hotel tax. You see it when you go to some places. You stay in a hotel and you get your bill the next day, and there's the normal sort of fees, and then there's sort of the hotel tax. Obviously, it would be affecting people that aren't necessarily Falls residents. And anytime someone stays in that hotel room, it could be $1, $2, something like that, multiplied by 365, multiplied by however many hotel rooms or something. Of course, it wouldn't be filled all the time. But that was also something we were not permitted to do. The state does not allow us to do that. It doesn't give us the authority to tax for those kinds of things. As a second-class township, I'm sure if, cities, I'm sure are different. They can tax on a different level than we can. So it is something we are always looking at, and obviously looking at what we're doing with trying to attract people to the KIPC, trying to help businesses come in, whether it's at the old Pathmark or the old Saturn. All of that in our minds is a way of broadening the tax base. And our Community and Economic Development Commission, which Mr. Galloway sits on as our liaison, has been looking at ways to try and improve this road out here, Lincoln Highway, to try and attract businesses to come to this area. So it's definitely something we're always focused on, but I do appreciate the comments tonight. It's certainly, we do hear them, we listen to them, we don't always agree, but we appreciate the input. All right. And the next meeting on the 17th, we will be looking at approving the budget. So obviously be more time for discussion then too. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. All right. Item 4 is the minutes from November 6, 2013. Any comments or questions regarding the minutes?
Nope.
No.
None. Excellent minutes once again, Mrs. Pullen. Thank you.
I have one small change, correction. Page 7. Pretty much halfway down the page, there's a sentence that says, talking about the gun buyback, Township spent about $2,200 to purchase guns back. Of that $2,200, 1,000 of that, you see where I am, Mrs. Pullen?
Yeah.
Was donated, it should be by a local business. As it says local businesses, there was one business that donated $1,000. So, okay, that's the only change I had. Otherwise, very, very good minutes. Is there a motion then to accept the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Gray, you're up. Manager comment?
Thank you. The township received a letter from Ms. Sandra Hartman dated November 10th, 2013 regarding 965 Lincoln Highway. They had a project where they were going to convert a building on this property to a music and arts conservatory. They no longer have the plan to do the work of converting this into a conservancy. They did post an escrow of $6,000, and they are requesting at this time a refund of the escrow amount. The total dollar amount in the account is $5,400. The board is asked to consider this escrow release.
Okay, and we're sure they don't owe anything else on the escrow?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any comments or questions from board members?
Yes, the person writing the letter says the building has been heavily vandalized. I wonder if we were aware through police reports or anything that this was going on?
I'm not aware.
I think it's been going on for a long time. It's in an odd location. It's over there next to Michael's Cafe, the old car dealership there.
Right.
That's,
There
who
was
knows what goes on back
Country
there.
Farm Motels
Yeah.
are next to that, yeah, so.
No, it's worrying if there's a serious vandalizing going on in the township, but if we don't get a notification about that, then we won't necessarily know. Can't do anything about it.
All right. Any other comments or questions?
None.
Okay.
No.
Is there a motion then to approve the escrow release for $5,400?
So moved.
Second?
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Township also received a letter from Arsen Kashkajian dated November 1st, 2013, regarding his escrow account requesting a release of funds for 74 Jennifer Lane. Total amount in the escrow account is $4,783.32. This has been confirmed with the engineer's office as well. At this time, the board is asked to consider a release of this escrow.
Any comments or questions?
No.
No? Okay. Is there a motion then to approve the release of the escrow for Arsen Kashkajian, 74 Jennifer Lane?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Just a few announcements from the Park and Rec Department. The annual Children's Holiday Christmas Party will be held on Saturday, December 14th at the Three Arches from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. The annual historic Three Arches tree lighting ceremony will immediately follow the children's party at 6:30 p.m. The annual Breakfast with Santa will be held on Saturday, December 21st at the Falls Township Senior Center from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All right, board comment. Mr. Dents?
Sure. There's been some discussion again about the proposed township building. It started out when we first looked at this project, was renovating this building. You know, we went out and we got some engineers and architects, and the cost estimates came back in the tens of millions of dollars. It was $10, $12 million to renovate the existing building downstairs and upstairs. We decided it would be more practical to just build a new building and start from scratch. This building here is not a township building, as Mr. Mariani said a few times. You walk through here and it's unbelievable the way these people have to work, especially the police department, where you're walking through a habit trail trying to find your way around. We're at a point now where we have a basic design, but this building is basically a police station. It's a 2 stories of police station with some administrative offices and a meeting room on top. That's really what we're building. There's not a lot of municipal space. It's more police space. Our police department is so overstuffed in this building as far as space goes and everything else. And right now we don't have a number that we're at. We're going to reduce that number as much as we can. But I wanted to make that clear that there's no price of $15 million that we're sitting at right now. That we're back at a design stage still, and still chipping away at who needs what and what we're going to get. I just wanted to clarify that, and that's all I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Galloway?
No comments.
Mr. Snipes?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you for a good meeting.
Okay, thank you. Just want to remind people that this Saturday is the last leaf pickup for anybody that's going to, still raking leaves up, like myself. Empty or trash cans rather with no lids on them, as well as the leaf bags you can get at Lowe's or Ace Hardware or Home Depot. You can put out as many as you want on Saturday. Also, the holiday, the Christmas decorating contest, the houses, that's ongoing. So if you see a house near you that's decorated, we have a couple, the one in Elderberry, one in Willowwood, that always are kind of, I don't know if they're dueling against each other, but obviously they're definitely doing what they can to make our season bright and help Pico stay in the black. I know the house in Willowwood has consistently said he's not interested in sort of being recognized for any kind of a prize. That's not why he does it, and we respect that. But if you have a house near you that the people have done a real nice job, we think it's nice to recognize them. They put out some effort. They try to make the neighborhood better, and it doesn't hurt to recognize them. So you can call in the township to the Park and Rec Department and give the address, and we'll put them on the list, and then we'll go around and take a look at them. Or Park and Rec will go around and take a look at them and sort of judge and give some prizes out to the top 5. Speaking of holiday decorations, just one thing to keep in mind. This is the season not only for Christmas and Hanukkah, but also it's the season, unfortunately, for a lot of fires. And so we're asked people, as they're decorating, as they're stringing up extension cords and they're putting up lights, and to keep in mind not to overload the outlets, not to overload the circuits. Don't stretch extension cords too far. Don't overload them. Don't lay them in areas where they're going to be stepped on or where doors will be closing on them or furniture sort of on top of them. It's, we want to have obviously want everybody to have a safe holiday season. And so just keep that in mind. Go out and buy an extra extension cord. They don't cost that much, and you have it for years. It's a good investment compared to maybe trying to overuse one and having some kind of a serious problem at your home, and nobody wants to see that. So just a safety tip that we hope everybody can stay safe and have a great holiday season. With that, again, thank the board members and the staff, as well as people in the public here and our professionals for a great meeting. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.